Mrs. Carleen Bryant's solicitor was Mr. John Avery. In October 1996, Mrs. Bryant was persuaded by John Avery to assist in making her son change his plea from not guilty to guilty. This demonstrates a conflict of interest in the duties of Mr. John Avery. The Hobart gun dealer, Mr. Terry Hill's solicitor, was again Mr. John Avery. On the 6th of June 1996, John Avery wrote a letter to his client, Mr. Terry Hill, that is extremely telling. In the second paragraph, this letter becomes quite obvious that Mr. John Avery is representing Mr. Terry Hill in a matter that is detrimental to Martin Bryant. The third paragraph tells us that we had Mr. John Avery and Inspector Ross Payne conspiring to coerce Mr. Terry Hill to give evidence against Martin Bryant. In the fourth paragraph, here we have an offer of indemnity by the DPP, Mr. Damien Bugg QC, should Terry Hill give the required evidence against Martin Bryant. Paragraph 5. Here we have the threat of prosecution should Terry Hill refuse to comply with the wishes of Inspector Ross Payne and the DPP, Mr. Damien Bugg QC. And Mr. John Avery accepts this felonious behaviour towards his client. In the sixth paragraph, Mr. John Avery is telling his client to consider very carefully his position in accepting this felonious proposition. That Mr. John Avery wrote this letter to his client demonstrates Avery's preparedness to assist police in the coercion of his client. This letter demonstrates John Avery's animosity towards Martin Bryant. What we are seeing here is Mr. John Avery colluding with police and the DPP on the 6th of June 1996 to bring about the conviction of Martin Bryant. Terry Hill refused to commit perjury and was subsequently put out of business by the Tasmania Police in the latter part of June 1996. Terry Hill was never charged with supplying weapons to Martin Bryant. In the committal hearing at the Hobart Supreme Court on the 30th of September 1996, Martin Bryant pleaded not guilty to the 72 charges relating to the Port Arthur massacre. His solicitor, Lieutenant Colonel David Gunson, subsequently stepped aside and Mr. John Avery then started acting for Martin Bryant. John Avery was still also acting for Mrs. Carleen Bryant and Mr. Terry Hill at this time. What we have here are major conflicts of interest in the part of Mr. John Avery. Mr. John Avery represented Martin Bryant from that time until the finalisation of Martin Bryant's sentencing in November 1996. In September 1997, Mr. John Avery explained in a speech at the law school of the University of Tasmania how he was able to cause Martin Bryant to change his plea from not guilty to guilty on the 7th of November 1996. John Avery said it took 14 or 15 visits. John Avery said it was more of a matter of talking with the individual. John Avery also said he was the sort of individual who wasn't going to respond to simply being told what to do, which is where Lieutenant Colonel David Gunson failed in his duties. John Avery said, "I felt intensely that I had to do right by the community as well." In respect to client privilege, Mr. John Avery hoped he would be free of this obligation so that he could release his tapes to the media. there can be no doubt that Martin Bryant was totally betrayed by the Tasmanian judicial system.
We've been doing a lot of talking over the last few weeks, and I'm gratified as to the fact the right decision's now been made. 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 The fact the right decision's now been made.
Martin Bryant, a man of limited mental capabilities, languishes in Risdon prison without a friend and abandoned by the legal profession. He has never faced a trial and was induced by his defense lawyer to plead guilty after he had continually denied his involvement. His trial and conviction was accomplished in the media. There are so many anomalies surrounding this case that have never been properly dealt with, and the political will to bring these anomalies to a close has been sadly lacking.